Thanatos' mind wanders to Jesus, the Son of God, heir to the King of Kings, adored by millions of mortals, hated by even more deities. Thanatos wonders what Navon is up to right now. Whatever she's doing, Thanatos hopes it doesn't involve Azrael. What were the motivations for assassinating Christ? The throne? Retaliation for the Christianization? Is there some kind of link to the apocalypse? Thanatos prefers Navon with blue eyes. Not that red isn't a beautiful color. She's just kinder to him when her eyes are blue. When they're red, she can't seem to take her attention off of Azrael. Suspects? Well, obviously the Aesir aren't fond of the Christians, but after Ragnarok, Thanatos doubts they have the resources necessary to pay for such a high-class kill, so Thanatos wants to suspect the Olympians or the Egyptians, but both pantheons were in neutral standing with Christ last time he checked. Thanatos and Navon were having such a good talk before Azrael showed up the other day. It's a relief to know that even after the last few centuries, she's still his best friend. It's always so hard to hide his smile around her, especially when she does things like climb all over him. Why is he ruling out so many of the lesser pantheons? Well, money is the first hurdle that comes to mind, but if enough of them banded together, it wouldn't be impossible. It wouldn't be impossible. It wouldn't be impossible for him to tell her how he feels. It wouldn't be impossible for them to be together.
Thanatos.
Thanatos hears Rhiannon's voice just before feeling a sharp pain sink into his hand. He looks down and finds Rhiannon's lips wrapped around several of his fingers. Her disembodied head rolls back and he sees a blush on her cheeks.
Thanatos! I'm sorry for biting you. I was only trying to get your attention.
Hot.
Thanatos interrupts.
What?
You're hot.
What?
Thanatos picks Rhiannon up and presses his forehead against hers. The act confirms his suspicions as she's grown even warmer.
Your face is flushed. So maybe that's enough psychopomp history for one day.
Yeah, you seemed pretty distracted at the end there.
I guess it would seem that way. But believe me.
He pets her head.
I was focused on something important. It'll all make sense one day. Promise.
Thanatos stands and keeps her head cradled in his arms.
Here, I'll carry you back to your room.
Thank you, Thanatos.
When the two arrive at Rhiannon's room, her body is there to greet them with open arms. Thanatos passes over Rhiannon's head and nods to the girl. As he goes to leave, she whispers to him.
Wait. I wanted to say thank you for helping me brush up. I feel the more I learn about the psychopomps, the closer I become with everyone.
Rhiannon hoists her head up onto her shoulders. She flashes Thanatos a small smile.
If you ever feel like you need someone to talk to confide in, maybe I can help? It seemed like talking to me helped you focus earlier, so we can keep doing that, if you want.
Thanatos wants to return the favor, offer her a smile of his own. But she isn't Navon, so instead, Thanatos only nods.
I'll think about it. I'm home,
Thanatos says as he pushes his door open. In the same motion, he's crushing another one of his butterflies. Navon is there to greet him, like always. She's on her hands and knees, and will remain that way until he pets her head.
Welcome home, Master.
You know, you don't have to call me that.
Thanatos says, approaching her.
But I want to.
Good girl.
Thanatos runs his hands through her auburn hair as he makes his way over to the sofa. Smiling, Navon follows him over to the couch. She climbs into his lap and nuzzles into his neck.
Master, you look tired. Stressful day?
Nah,
Thanatos cups her cheek.
just planning for the day when I finally rescue you.
Master really shouldn't worry about me so much.
Well, I can't help myself. So you're just gonna have to get used to it.
Master! You're so good to me!
Do you love me, Navon?
Of course I do, Master. I love you.
Do you love me more than Azrael?
Of course I do, Master. I love you.
The worst part about being an illusionist is knowing it's all smoke and mirrors.
Strip for me, Navon.
course, Master.
Navon arches her back and rolls her hips. She gyrates for him, dances as she unties the sash around her waist. She drops it to the side where it falls on the couch but casts no shadow. Navon giggles and reaches for Thanatos' hair, but he feels nothing as she fishes through his black locks. Next, the feathers at her collar ruffle and the pink fabric of her top simmers away. As Thanatos suspected, the cloth on her body was merely plumage she made appear as clothing. However, she did have a bra on, not because it made sense, but because Thanatos wanted it this way. Her bra is tight and thin, not providing any of the comforts or support it was meant to, and was instead there solely to accentuate the plumpness of her pale flesh. He made her wear a white bra because it makes her look innocent. In his eyes, she had yet to be marred by anyone else. Navon goes for Thanatos' hands, and he simply follows along in time with her movements. She wants his assistance in undoing the bra. Thanatos' gaze bounces from one curve to another. Her skin is white and perfect, but he knows it wouldn't be. All manner of cuts and bruises were missing from this canvas, from this portrait painted by someone who wishes he hadn't known the truth. Thanatos knew Azrael hurt her. He could try to ignore it, but the memories always come rushing back. Like an alarm, it blares in his mind every time he looks at Navon. He falls back to times where he did nothing but hide the fact that he knew about her injuries. Thanatos walked the edge of Death's domain. As always, the sky was cloudy and the waves carried a dead gray color as they crashed upon the shore. Up ahead, Thanatos saw familiar figures, one very large and the other small, so small she could break. He knew them from their silhouettes alone and walked up to meet them. He didn't want to seem eager.
Hey.
Thanatos greeted Hel and Navon as he walked up behind them. Hel jumped up, turned to look at him, and stepped back. Navon stayed crouched beside the river. Both her arms were submerged, as were parts of her leg. She tilted her head and grinned up at Thanatos.
Thanatos? What are you doing here?
Hel asked, stepping back.
I live here, just like the two of you.
Don't get smart with me.
Hel arched one of her thin black eyebrows.
I meant, what are you doing out here, by the river with us, and not wherever Styx is?
Thanatos was on the verge of responding when he felt something crash into his side. He looked down and saw Navon clung to him. Thanatos took a step and her grip tightened. He jumped and her grip tightened further.
Don't scare him off, Hal. It's been a long time since the gang's been together like this. I caught myself an elusive Danny, and I don't plan to let him go just yet.
Navon climbed up onto Thanatos' back.
Don't get comfortable,
Thanatos said, not meaning a word.
Too late.
Navon giggled and Thanatos felt her chin on his head. Thanatos looked ahead and found himself staring at Hel's chest. It wasn't intentional, it's just hard not to be faced with them considering Hel's height.
Naman, shut up.
Thanatos heard Hel's voice.
Your arms look better already. It must be your accelerated healing.
Navon rocked on Thanatos' shoulders, and whenever it felt like she might fall, he'd reach up and put a hand on her lower back to hold her in place.
Yeah, I guess so. But I heal best whenever I'm around Azzy. Dude's like always angry or thinking about killing something, so I might as well make use of all those negative vibes.
Thanatos picked up Navon and lowered her down before himself.
What happened?
He had grabbed her shoulders, and only when she looked at his hands did he think to pull away.
Oh? Is Danny worried about me?
Navon flipped her hair, snickered, and looked off in another direction. She nudged Hel's thigh with her elbow.
Just yesterday it seemed like you wanted nothing to do with us. And now, here you are, acting like you care. So what do you say, Hel? Should I tell him to hit the road?
Thanatos dropped to a knee in front of her and tried to get a hold of her elusive gaze.
Hey, listen. I do care.
Somehow he killed her smile, though that wasn't his intention. He'd never want to do that. Thanatos looked up at Hel and caught her staring down at him, but as soon as their eyes flitted over one another, she looked to Navon. Like Hel, he looked at Navon again. She sighed, then chuckled, and her cheeks flushed as it looked like she tried puffing them out as far as they'd go.
Jeez, Danny, I was only kidding.
Thanatos saw her hands coming towards him and made no effort to avoid her touch. She gripped both his cheeks, then pulled them, as though forcing him to smile.
Come on. You've known me for this long and you still get worried? I'm not a little doll or anything. I'm okay. Really.
Her expression looked like it faltered, but Thanatos couldn't be sure. Or maybe he didn't want to be. Thanatos' hands fell from Navon's shoulders to the ground beside her feet. He dug his fingers into the ground. His back flexed, his wings stretched, and toes curled. His entire body reacted, just so his face didn't have to. So after letting it hurt a little, Thanatos reached up and pulled Navon's hands away from his face. Then he stood up and turned away.
All right, I believe you.
Was what Thanatos said, but not what he meant.
It was Asriel.
Hel said, fastening Thanatos in place. Thanatos let Hel's words burrow into him, burn him, hurt him. Thanatos didn't turn back to face them until he was sure his anger wouldn't be apparent on his face.
Hell, why'd you have to go and say that? You made it sound worse than it was. Besides, I'm all better now thanks to the river.
Well, Thanatos cares about you, so he has a right to know.
Hel shrugged, looked at Thanatos, and nodded.
Right, Thanatos?
Thanatos is better than Asriel. He knew it then, and he'll always know it. So because he's better, he puts that hatred away, down somewhere deep, where it couldn't spew out and risk hurting anyone he loved. Thanatos' hatred for Asriel wouldn't ever hurt Navon. It'll only hurt the one it's intended for.
Hey, you two hungry?
Thanatos looked back at the pair.
Let's head to the mess hall.
Navon slams down one last time before convulsing the way he likes. Moaning, she pulls away to look Thanatos in the eyes.
That felt great, Master. Did it feel good for you?
Thanatos doesn't respond.
Master,
Navon leans in for a kiss.
I love you.
Navon fades away as Thanatos gets up to clean his sticky fingers. He heads to bed soon after and falls asleep. Everything is silent, but more so than before. The entire world around Thanatos turns upside down and he opens his eyes to find he's no longer in his bedroom. Instead, he's atop a hammock of branches in a decaying forest. Thanatos leaves the nest and heads down the one open path he can. He finds a corroded cathedral amidst dying shrubbery. There are old trees that curve like fingers around the church. The structure's drawbridge lowers naturally as Thanatos approaches. When Thanatos enters the church, he studies the dozens of unattended pews and the countless candles that surround them. He notices that 2 candles light on occasion, only to fade moments later. Thanatos looks to the sound of snoring coming from a black pew near the back of the room. Sure enough, that's where he finds his twin brother, Hypnos, sleeping. He walks up to Hypnos and taps him on his shoulder. After 10 or so snores, Thanatos kicks the pew.
Get up,
Thanatos says, kicking the bench once more for good measure. With a grunt and a yawn, Hypnos' eyes open. Thanatos locks eyes with his silver-eyed, sandy-haired brother. The differences between them are so apparent, Thanatos often forgets they're twins.
Is that you, brother?
Hypnos inquires as he rubs the edge of his eyes. He holds a hand to his face and catches a yawn while trying to speak again.
I'd almost forgot how gloomy you looked, Thanatos. Not getting enough sleep.
I sleep enough to do what I need to do.
But never long enough to dream and visit any of us.
Instead of ears, Hypnos has small wings that flap at the sides of his head whenever he laughs.
You know, it's recommended you sleep for like 9 hours a night or something like that. A really smart mortal dude figured it out.
It's 8, if you're mortal.
I guess. Works wonders for me. Well, anyway. Long time no see, bro. How have you been?
I've been better. How are things in Olympus?
Seconds go by before Thanatos realizes Hypnos had fallen asleep. Thanatos exhales softly, shakes his head, and then stands up.
Fun talk.
Thanatos leaves one brother to seek out another. the one he came here to speak to in the first place. There are living quarters in the back of the building, at the end of a hall decorated with religious paraphernalia. Crosses were strange to see in an Olympian home, but Thanatos wasn't surprised to find his brother had redecorated his domain with such heavy Judeo-Christian influences. He wasn't happy about it either. This place belonged to Mother long before it was Phobator's, so to see it converted to this did leave a sour taste in his mouth. Reaching his destination, Thanatos knocks on the door, and it isn't long before someone comes along to answer it.
Sorry, I'll be there right away.
A soft, feminine-sounding voice escapes the slight crack in the door. Soon, Thanatos comes face to face with his youngest sibling, Phobator. Centuries hadn't changed Phobator much, as he still bore the greatest resemblance to their mother. A soft, innocent visage, large eyes, and a lithe, eternally youthful frame. Though unlike Mother, Phobator had their father's dark skin and hair.
Big brother? Is that you? Is that really you?
With each step Phobator takes, Thanatos finds himself inching away. Much to his chagrin, Thanatos accepts a hug from Phobator. If not for Phobator's lacy nightgown, Thanatos wouldn't have reservations about embracing his own brother.
Hey, Phobator.
Thanatos says while tapping his youngest sibling on the shoulder, hoping that would be enough to free him.
Please tell me this isn't some kind of illusion. This is really you, isn't it?
Phobator pinches his own cheeks.
I must be dreaming.
This may be the plane of dreams, but I'm the real deal.
You finally come to see me, big brother. You have no idea how much I missed you.
Phobator breaks the hug and peeks behind Thanatos.
Sorry to disappoint, but it's only me. I take it the others haven't visited?
They do, from time to time, but it still gets lonely. I'm really lucky that Hypnos visits often, and that I have Master here with me. Otherwise, I might...
End up like Mom. I'm sorry, Phobator. If I had known, I would've...
No, it's okay. It's not your fault, big brother. You're busy. I understand, really.
Phobator looks past Thanatos, and by turning, Thanatos manages to follow Phobator's line of sight over to the thousands of unlit candles filling the church.
It wouldn't be so bad if I were able to keep busy like all of you. Even though the mortals are gone, death still exists, so you're always needed. But gods don't sleep nearly as often. And when they do, there's no telling if or when they'll have nightmares. So I just wait around for the brief moments I can be of use to someone. Anyone.
Well, the free time can't be all bad, right? I mean, look here. You turn an old cave and some creepy-ass rocks into an, creepy-ass Gothic church. So I mean, that's something. Dad'll probably hate it. But Dad hates everything.
Do you know if Mother is getting better? Hypnos always tells me she's getting plenty of sleep, and that that's a good thing. But you know how he is. He thinks sleeping is the answer to everything. Maybe you could ask Father for me?
So about Dad hating everything. Pretty sure he hates me most.
Phoebe, coming back to bed or what?
Well, second most.
I'm sorry, Master. You won't believe who showed up. I want you to come and say hi.
Phobator waves into the room. Seconds later, a much larger figure pushes through the other half of the double door.
We were kind of in the middle of something, Phoebe.
There Zad stands in the buff, looking oh so proud of himself. Thanatos looks away, only catching a brief glance at his well-structured, muscular form. Black hair rushes down from his head and ends at the base of his neck. There's a pair of sunglasses sitting neatly on the brim of his nose that hide both of his eyes. At first, his face seems clean-shaven, but in the glance, Thanatos did see some stubble. Maybe a stray hair or two. A mouthful of razor-sharp teeth makes for a nasty little smirk that always bothers Thanatos. But the most characterizing detail, for Thanatos at least, is the big, dumb golden cross he wears around his neck. The cross sits on his sternum, and its middle bar is aligned in a way that guides eyes to either of his nipples.
What are you staring at my cock for?
Just the guy I was looking for.
Zad wraps an arm around Phobator's waist and forces a deep kiss on him. Thanatos turns away and doesn't look back until the sloppy, wet noises stop. Phobodor drums against Zad's chest with his tiny fists as he complains.
Master, don't. Not in front of brother.
Laughing, Zad releases Phobodor and faces Thanatos.
So what's up? Got something for me? Finally here to rat your little club out?
Not exact.
Zad steps back into the room before Thanatos can finish. He isn't in there for long and reemerges, now wearing a black bathrobe. He looks down at Phobodor and smiles as he runs his fingers through the demon's hair. Zad's thumb rests against Phobodor's lips, and Phobodor places several soft kisses on the digit before it's pulled away.
Hey Phoebe, bagel me?
Zad says, holding out a hand. Phobodor bobs his head and a perfectly cut bagel appears in Zad's right hand, and a knife with cream cheese appears in his left.
Are you hungry, big brother?
Phobodor asks, looking to Thanatos.
I know dream food doesn't fill up physical bodies, but it at least tastes good while you're here.
I'm fine. I lost my appetite earlier.
Thanatos watches Zad sway his hips as he spreads cheese on the bagel. The hip gyrations grow into a dance as Zad eats the bagel.
There isn't even any music.
Zad finishes his bagel and licks each and every one of his fingers while approaching Thanatos.
Awesome kids. The only thing that keeps me from ripping your death-dealing pecker off is that we're kind of like family. I love Phoebe here with all of my heart. But it still pains me, like emotionally, not physically, to be in the same room with criminal scum like you.
A pair of shadowy hands fly up from the ground and grab each of Zad's limbs, preventing him from reaching Thanatos.
Be nice, Master.
Fine. Sorry, Phoebe. You know how I am when I'm talking to the bad guys. I've never really sounded all that heroic. Guess that bit of training was lost on me.
Zad smiles at Phobodor, and after a sigh, the arms release him and vanish.
Do me a favor, honey. Save that little number for later. It's not half bad.
Zad smiles at Thanatos.
Sorry for being...
An ass.
Yeah, for lack of a better word. But hey, you are what you eat, right? Too much?
Zad returns to his spot before Phobodor and wraps an arm around the godling's waist, pulling him into a tight embrace.
Well, I'm sorry for ruining your little family moment. I'm gonna go wait in the bedroom. Take your time, Phoebe.
Zad says as he leans over to kiss Phobodor's forehead.
Wait, Zad!
Thanatos calls out. Zad looks over his shoulder with a smile already buttered on his face.
It's Azrael.
Thanatos says, knowing it'll excite Zad.
He's taking a job. Seems personal. He'll be careless, and for the first time in a long time, he won't be taking her with him.
Her?
Zad asks, but gets no answer.
Our client is tracking the target and giving us on-the-hour updates to their location. When Azrael moves into position, I'll let you know. Then you...
No need to explain, I've got it. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, you know? Why this sudden change of heart? Did the idiot do something to piss you off too?
Something like that. He hurt a friend of mine one too many times. I'd love to do it myself, but I can't have his blood on my hands. The person I care about feels death. She'd sense it was me, and as much as I'd hate to admit it, killing him would upset her. But it's only because she doesn't understand. I'm doing this for her, you know, so she can understand.
So you like her too, then?
Thanatos' gaze snaps onto Zad. He doesn't say it aloud, but he hopes Zad's feelings for Phobodor might influence his decisions if he were to ever encounter Navon. Zad snaps his fingers, causing his black bathrobe to melt over his limb. The black ooze reforms along his physique, taking on a new shape. Dark clerical clothing hugs tight around his arms and chest, but hangs freely from his forearms and at his legs. Some of the ink rises up and becomes a deep violet sash that runs over Zad's wide shoulders.
I really hope he doesn't plan on repenting.
Zad says in a voice brimming both with malice and excitement. Zad breaks out into a loud cackle befitting the lunatic the psychopomps call the Hunter. Thanatos' eyes flutter open and he finds himself back in his room. Like any other day, he gets up and prepares for work. Once he's dressed, he heads to the door. Upon opening it, he finds Navon waiting there. Startled, Thanatos steps back into his room and tries to remember if he'd activated one of his illusions recently.
Danny.
Navon says while getting on the tips of her toes to peek at his face. Thanatos notices her complexion is a touch paler than usual, which is saying something for a girl who's already so white.
Navon,
What's
up?
They end up saying in unison. She laughs and he watches her laugh.
Azzy and Hal are both out working, so you want to hang out?
Navon asks while bouncing in place.
I've got like 10 boxes of chocolate I've been hiding from Azzy, and I was thinking you could help me eat them all before he gets back.
I don't know. I kinda have the day off, so yeah. I'm not so sure how I feel about gorging on candy all afternoon.
Look, real talk, Danny. I'm feeling sick and need someone to wait on me hand and foot until Azzy gets back.
So, what's in it for me?
You get to spend the whole day with your best friend. Oh my gosh, lucky you!
That's it?
Come on! What's more fun than lounging around, feeding me chocolate and giving me foot massages all day? It'll be like old times, just me and you.
Thanatos feels the slightest tug at the ends of his lips, but it's so minuscule he doubts anything comes of it.
You're right.
What, really?
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Even if Thanatos thought nothing of his minute face contractions, Navon's brightened expression seems to say something else. Her eyes widen and her mouth curls into this delicate smile that is a treat to behold. He can't remember the last time he's seen someone look so genuinely happy or so beautiful. It makes his stomach twist, but in a good way. He's drawn to her. As she reaches out towards him, his fingers twitch, and he thinks about taking her hand and feeling her touch. Though as much as he desires it, he resists, and so his arm remains at his side. Navon ends up grasping Thanatos' wrist anyway. With a gentle tug, she pulls him towards her room.
You should do that more. I really like it when you smile.